Your mind is a time machine, but instead of using it to revisit the past or explore the future, you use it to travel into disasters that will likely never occur. You spend hours, days, and sometimes entire weeks obsessing over what-ifs that, if you analyze them honestly, almost never manifest in reality. Worry has become the invisible, toxic background noise of your life. But what if I told you that the most radical and intelligent act you could perform is to simply take life less seriously? Today, we are going to disarm the greatest thief of your energy. We will provide you with the tools to replace this constant anxiety with a serene fortitude that allows you to enjoy the journey even when the path becomes difficult. The act of worrying has never solved a single problem. It has never paid a bill, cured an ailment, or repaired a broken relationship. Its only function is to systematically rob you of the present moment. Think of it as paying interest on a debt that you may never actually owe. You are draining your energy, your joy, and your mental clarity, leaving yourself completely exhausted before you even face the challenges that are real. You must begin to recognize worry for exactly what it is: a mental parasite. It feeds on your stillness and grows in the shadows of your imagination. Every time you surrender to a loop of anxiety, you are allowing a thief to enter your house and steal your capacity to function. You think you are preparing for the future, but you're only sabotaging the resources you need to handle it when and if it finally arrives. And once you understand this, you begin to see something deeper. The first step is not to fix the things you worry about, but to fix your relationship with the worry itself. You have to treat the urge to panic as a signal to pause, observe, and deliberately choose a different mental path. You stop being a host to this parasite the moment you decide that your peace of mind is not for sale. Pause for a moment right now. Look back at your life exactly 7 days ago. What was that massive, overwhelming problem that was keeping you awake at night, stealing your focus, and ruining your mood? Be brutally honest with yourself. Did that catastrophe actually happen? And even if something occurred, was it ever as devastating as your mind painted it to be? In the vast majority of cases, the answer is no. Your concerns are usually nothing more than ghosts, projections of an imaginary future that rarely materializes. Using the empirical evidence of your own past is the most potent antidote you have against the anxiety of the future. You have survived every worst-case scenario your mind has ever manufactured. The proof of your resilience is already there, written in the history of your own life. The next thing you must understand is quieter, but incredibly liberating. You have been a professional at building tragedies that never occur. By regularly auditing your past concerns, you force your subconscious to realize that its warnings are largely unreliable. This is not about being reckless, it is about developing a calm, skeptical eye toward your own fears. When you stop trusting your anxiety, you start trusting yourself. A significant portion of your daily worry is born from a desperate, often unconscious need for external validation. You ask yourself, what will they think of me if I fail? Or am I measuring up to their expectations? This need to impress the people around you is a prison that you have built with your own hands. You are living your life as if you are under a constant judgmental spotlight that does not actually exist. The truth is that most people are far too consumed by their own anxieties to pay much attention to yours. They are not judging you, they are worried about themselves. Abandoning this need to impress is one of the most liberating acts a human can perform. It allows you to move through the world with a new sense of transparency, acting from a place of authenticity rather than a place of fear. This is where the real change begins. You must give yourself permission to be perceived imperfectly. When you detach your self-worth from the opinions of others, you immediately silence the internal critic that demands you be perfect. You stop being a performer for a crowd that doesn't care, and you start being a man who is comfortable in his own skin, regardless of the judgment of others. We are currently living on a small rock spinning through a vast, silent universe, and we do not entirely know why we are here or what the ultimate purpose is. Our existence is a cosmic blink. Yet we take our personal dramas and our daily problems with a deadly solemnity. This behavior is, when you view it from a distance, profoundly ridiculous. Adopting a lighter, almost humorous perspective on your own personal struggles does not mean you are a nihilist. It means you have finally achieved the wisdom to recognize the actual scale of things. You stop giving your minor inconveniences the gravity of a life-changing disaster. When you can laugh at the absurdity of your own frustrations, you strip them of their power. You create a distance between who you are and the problems you face, allowing you to breathe in moments where you previously would have suffocated. And slowly, something inside you starts to return. You realize that you can care deeply about your life and still refuse to be crushed by it. There is a deep, quiet strength in being able to smile at the chaos of life. It shows that your inner center is stable, regardless of the turbulence happening on the surface. You become the eye of the storm. This is a level of mental mastery that completely changes the game. The natural human tendency is to resist, complain, and curse the moments when things go wrong. But what if you shifted your perspective to see every difficulty as a disguised teacher? The misfortune you're currently facing is not just a pain to be endured, it is a curriculum to be learned. Every hardship you encounter serves a specific purpose. Loss teaches you how to truly value what you have. Error provides you with the raw data required for future wisdom. Adversity is the only environment where true resilience is forged. Discerning the value of the experience does not mean you enjoy suffering. It means you refuse to let your suffering be in vain. But this is only the surface. You must learn to stay present for the entire spectrum of the human experience, not just the comfortable parts. You must learn to be fully alive even when life is not going according to your plan, because every single moment, even the painful ones, is still a moment of your existence. Do not resist the reality of your day. Lean into it, learn from it, and transform it into your fuel. We fall into the dangerous trap of believing that there are throwaway days, days that are merely a tedious wait for the weekend or for the next vacation. This mindset is the ultimate scam you play on yourself. The idea that you will finally be happy when a specific event arrives is a fantasy that destroys your present potential. Every single day, whether you categorize it as good or bad, is a container of 24 hours of your life that will never return. The practice of true living requires you to find value in the day you actually have, not the day you wish you had. Whether it is the simple taste of your morning coffee, a meaningful conversation, or a lesson learned from a mistake, there is always something to extract. You must stop treating your life as if it were a waiting room. If you are waiting for the perfect day to start living, you are actively choosing to waste the only life you are ever going to get. This is where the real change begins. You treat every day as a complete, self-contained experience that deserves your full presence. When you commit to being present, you stop trying to rush through your life. You begin to appreciate the quiet moments of your existence as much as the loud ones. Every day is a gift of time, and it is entirely up to you to treat it like one. We often cling to worry because it provides a false comforting sensation that we are actually doing something about a problem. You believe that if you ruminate over a disaster, you are somehow managing it. But this is a hollow illusion. Worry is a fundamentally passive state of mind. It is an endless mental loop that leads nowhere. Action, by contrast, is the only thing that creates movement and progress in your life. The next time you find yourself trapped in a spiral of anxiety, you must pause and ask yourself, what is the smallest, most concrete action I can take right now to move forward? By asking this question, you forcefully switch your brain from the passive worry mode to the active action mode. You stop feeding the anxiety and start solving the reality of the situation. And once you understand this, you begin to see something deeper. You do not need to have the entire roadmap to take the first step. You only need to know what you can do in this exact second. When you shift your focus toward active problem solving, you reclaim the power that worry was stealing from you. You transform from a victim of your thoughts into an agent of your own life. It is vital that you do not confuse the destructive habit of worrying with the necessary act of planning. They are two entirely different animals. Worry is a vicious circle of what if this goes wrong and what if that goes wrong. That leaves you spinning in place. Planning is a straight line of if this happens, then I will do that. Planning is constructive because it gives you a map to navigate the unknown. Worry is a trap that keeps you locked in a labyrinth of fear. Planning is a tool that grants you the confidence to move forward despite the uncertainty. You must dedicate specific limited time to plan for the future. But once you have your strategy, you must consciously release the desperate need to control the ultimate outcome. Once you have done your part, let the rest unfold as it will. The next thing you must understand is quieter, but incredibly effective. Planning gives you preparation, but acceptance gives you peace. Do not allow your preparation to turn into an obsession with the result. You do your best to prepare, and then you trust your ability to adapt to whatever reality presents to you. That is the balance of a strong, centered mind. Most of your daily suffering comes from trying to fight battles you have absolutely no hope of winning. There are things in this world that you can control, and things that are completely outside of your influence. The vast majority of your worries are focused entirely on the second category. Radical acceptance is the practice of recognizing and acknowledging reality exactly as it is, without wasting energy trying to resist the truth. Acceptance does not mean that you enjoy the situation, and it certainly does not mean that you agree with it. It simply means that you stop bleeding energy fighting against the present moment. You recognize that the reality is already here, and you choose to stop spending your limited focus on the useless desire for things to be different than they are. This is where the real change begins. You free up a massive amount of mental energy that was previously locked in the resistance of the situation, and you redirect that power toward your own response. You realize that you cannot control the wind, but you can always adjust your sails. This is the hallmark of a resilient man. He faces the reality of his situation and acts with clarity. Excessive seriousness turns your entire existence into a grueling trial, where every minor error feels like a criminal charge against your character. When you view life this way, you become terrified of making mistakes, and fear kills your ability to truly live. But if you choose to view life as a game, the rules change entirely. In a game, you expect to encounter obstacles, you expect to make mistakes, and you understand that the joy is found in the act of playing, not just in the final score. Are you playing life to win? Or are you playing it just to avoid losing? When you play to avoid losing, you live a small, fearful, and stifled life. When you play to win, you embrace the possibility of failure as a necessary part of the challenge. You laugh at your own falls, you learn from the experience, and you keep moving forward with boldness and curiosity. And slowly, something inside you starts to return. You finally see that the seriousness you wore as armor was actually a weight dragging you down. By embracing the game of life, you gain the lightness of spirit needed to endure the hard chapters. You're no longer living in a courtroom, you're living on the field. So play with intensity, play with integrity, and above all, play with joy. Most of the weight you carry is not yours to begin with. You waste your limited mental capacity reacting to every minor annoyance, every rude comment, and every external change that you cannot possibly influence. You are essentially volunteering to be a victim of your environment. True strength is found in the ruthless application of indifference to everything that does not serve your ultimate purpose or your peace. You must learn the habit of conscious selection before you engage in a conflict or allow a worry to take root. Ask yourself if the matter will even be relevant in 1 year. By filtering your reactions, you reclaim your focus and conserve your energy for the battles that actually demand your presence. You stop being a reactive creature and become a deliberate operator of your own emotional state. This is where the real change begins. You're not being cold or unfeeling, you are being disciplined. Protecting your peace is an active, demanding duty that you owe to yourself. When you refuse to be drawn into the trivial, you make room for the significant. You become an island of stability in a world that is obsessed with being constantly offended and perpetually worried. You are rarely actually living in the present. You're almost always living in a distorted version of your own history or a catastrophic version of your future. The present moment is the only place where your life actually unfolds, yet you treat it as a secondary nuisance. When you stop chasing the next moment, you find that the current one is enough to work with. Anxiety cannot survive when you're fully engaged in the physical reality of the now. Whether you're working, eating, or walking, put your entire consciousness into that single action. By anchoring yourself in the physical, you starve the mental ghosts of the past and the nightmares of the future. You reclaim your life by reclaiming your attention from the mind traps. And once you understand this, you begin to see something deeper. The present is not a waiting room for a better life. It is the building material for any life you hope to construct. When you fully inhabit your current moment, you find a clarity that worry never provided. You are finally awake, and that is where your real power resides. You suffer because you are addicted to the result. You feel that you can only be at peace if the outcome matches your expectation. But this is a recipe for a life of disappointment. Because you do not control the variables of this world, you must learn to fall in love with the process of doing your best, regardless of what the final score says. Detachment from outcome does not mean you do not have goals. It means you do not stake your sanity on them. You give everything you have to the task at hand, and then you cultivate a quiet, steel-like indifference to the result. This perspective shields you from the highs of false victory and the lows of defeat. You become unshakable because your self-worth is not tied to a temporary external outcome. The next thing you must understand is quieter, but immensely effective. When you let go of the need for a specific result, you actually perform better. You are no longer acting from a place of fear or desperation, but from a place of competence and calm. You become a much more dangerous operator when you are no longer afraid of the final result. In an age of constant noise, your ability to remain silent is a superpower. You are constantly bombarded by the opinions of others, the news cycle, and the endless digital demands. This noise is designed to prevent you from ever having a single original thought. If you do not create spaces of absolute solitude in your week, you are effectively letting the crowd live inside your head. True wisdom is rarely found in the loudest rooms. You must intentionally seek out the silence to hear your own internal guidance, which has been drowned out by years of external input. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the laboratory where you test your own convictions against your own logic, instead of letting society tell you what to believe. But this is only the surface. By protecting your silence, you reclaim the dignity of your own mind. You learn to be comfortable with your own company, which is the ultimate cure for the need for external validation. A man who is comfortable in the silence can never be truly manipulated by the noise of the world. You have been told that you are a product of your environment, your genetics, and your past. This is the narrative that keeps you small, compliant, and anxious. You have the ultimate authority to rewrite that story starting right now. You are not a static character. You are the writer, the actor, and the director of your own life script. Stop referring to yourself by the mistakes you made or the failures you have endured. Those events are simply data points, not the definition of your character. Every day you have the fresh paper to redefine who you are based on your current actions. This shift in narrative is the final barrier against worry, because the person who writes their own story does not fear the plot twists. And slowly, something inside you starts to return. You realize that you're not a victim of circumstance, but an author of response. You have the power to infuse your story with courage, humor, and purpose, even in the middle of a tragedy. Own your narrative, and the world can no longer define your limits for you. You live under the illusion that if you simply design a perfect enough system, life will finally stop throwing curveballs at you. You spend your precious energy building rigid structures to protect yourself from chaos, only to feel destroyed when reality inevitably breaks your plans. This obsession with total preparation is just another way of feeding the parasite of worry. A plan is useful, but it is not a promise. The moment you become emotionally dependent on your plan working out, you have lost your freedom. You must treat your strategies like sand, useful for building something today, but easy to let go of when the tide changes. True security is not found in the rigidity of your schedule, but in the fluidity of your response. And once you understand this, you begin to see something deeper. The man who is prepared for everything is terrified, while the man who is prepared for nothing but ready for anything is invincible. Stop trying to control the uncontrollable elements of your future. Build your capacity to adapt, not your defenses against reality. You will never achieve a state of lasting peace as long as you prioritize being understood by the crowd. The crowd thrives on anxiety, conformity, and constant reaction, the very things you are now trying to dismantle. When you begin to take life less seriously and abandon the need to worry, people will call you indifferent, irresponsible, or lost. Let them speak. Their judgment is only a reflection of their own internal fear of breaking the same rules you are walking away from. When you stop seeking the crowd's approval for your emotional state, you become untethered from their influence. The courage to be misunderstood is the final shield against the anxiety of the masses. This is where the real change begins. You are not living to satisfy the expectations of people who are themselves trapped in the loop of worry. You are living to satisfy the requirements of your own character and your own clarity. Walk your path with a quiet smile, and let the crowd remain confused. Their confusion is the tax you pay for your newfound freedom. Gratitude is not a sentimental feeling that you wait to experience. It is a discipline you actively practice. When you are trapped in the cycle of worry, your brain is biologically hardwired to focus on everything that is lacking or potentially dangerous. You have to manually override this by forcing your attention toward the value that is already present in your day. This is not about ignoring the difficulties of your situation. It is about keeping the complete picture in your view. Even on the darkest days, there is a physical reality to be grateful for. The air in your lungs, the strength in your body, the lesson you're currently absorbing. Gratitude is the anchor that holds you steady when the winds of worry begin to blow. The next thing you must understand is quieter, but immensely grounding. A man who counts his blessings is not a man who lives in delusion. He is a man who knows how to resource himself. When you focus on what you have, you become capable of facing what you lack from a position of power, not from a position of desperation. You suffer because you treat your current problems as if they are permanent features of your reality. You forget that everything you are currently worried about is transient. It is moving, changing, and eventually dissolving. The tragedy you fear today is just a temporary configuration of circumstances that will lose its edge as time moves forward. When you understand the wisdom of impermanence, you stop giving your temporary problems the weight of a lifetime. You learn to ride the wave of the experience without drowning in it. You are the observer, not the event, and the observer is always larger than the thing being observed. And slowly, something inside you starts to return. You find an immense, quiet peace in knowing that this too shall pass. It does not make the hard moments easier, but it makes them survivable. You hold on to your life loosely, with a hand that is open rather than clenched. That is how you keep your spirit from breaking. The ultimate state of mental power is the ability to maintain your center in the middle of total chaos. A sovereign man is not someone who lives in a bubble of safety. He is someone who has cultivated a peace that is independent of the external circumstances. He recognizes that the world is chaotic, the future is uncertain, and his life is finite, and he chooses to play the game with joy and audacity anyway. You have dismantled the thief of worry and replaced it with a clarity that no event can steal from you. You are no longer playing to avoid the disaster. You are playing to fully inhabit your own existence. This is the final level of mental fortitude, the quiet realization that you are the master of your own perspective. The time for questioning the system of worry is over. The time for living with a light, strong, and unburdened heart is now. If this truth resonated with the part of you that has been waiting to wake up, subscribe and join us in the reclamation of our autonomy. Stay grounded, stay focused, live fully. You have spent your life traveling into disasters that never happened, paying the price for futures that never arrived. We have dismantled the parasite of worry and replaced it with a radical, serene fortitude that chooses to view the life as a game, not as a sentencing. You now understand that you do not need to control every variable to lead a meaningful existence, and that taking life less seriously is the ultimate act of mental strength. Your time is too precious to be sacrificed to the ghosts of anxiety. Walk forward with the lightness of a man who knows that no matter what the day brings, he is capable of experiencing it, learning from it, and finding the value within it. The cage of worry is unlocked. It is time to step out and live.